Bear with me a second. All right, screen's unpaused. Now, what I want to go over real quick, first off, is just some good basics about Viper trading systems, because the basics are pretty important, okay? What we do is we basically trade 3 trade setups. And if you learn to trade those 3 trade setups, you're going to make money. I mean, we show it all the time. Okay, let me show you those trade setups that we talk about real quick. We look for first time after a trend change, okay? Very important that you're looking at your mid-band. See how the mid-band's in a stair-stepping downward move right here, okay? But at 8:30, when the market opens, that's when basically equities open, so gold reacts accordingly also. We're looking for that first break. We have, like I say, 3 trade types that we take. This is one of them, and I drew it in the room. You don't take the break, you take it when it takes it out the second time. So there's your first trade right there after the equities opened. And what we do is we teach a way of trading that's based on swings, but they're called micro swings. Okay, so what we're looking at, and we get out of our trades accordingly too. To give you an example, like on here, let's say that you took this trade right here, and you get this little, see this little pulling back consolidation, makes a higher high just a little bit, pulls back, makes a higher high. Well, pretty soon you've got to see that you're going to be breaking these little swings across here, like right across here. See how that had a high, low, higher high just barely? Then you take your coin right there at that line, close of the bar. So you're actually out at 33.80.40, and you got in roughly at 33.77.70. So that makes not a bad trade. Then we look for our second trade setup that we like is the mid-band trade. Now, what I'm going over is I'm going over trades that I actually called also, because I want you to be able to see them like our people do and like I do, so that you can actually take the trade. Okay, so this is called a mid-band trade. Now, the mid-band trade, and some of our people need brushing up on this too, because not everybody's been with us forever. So this is not a bad thing to go over. This is called a mid-band trade. Now, a mid-band trade only happens when you get a stair-stepping mid-band. And what I mean by stair-stepping is that this mid-band has to make at least a move up, a flat line, and then move up again. That's a stair-stepping mid-band. And so we're looking for first time back into that mid-band as a trade setup. And that's actually your trade setup right here. Okay. Now, we have tools at our disposal. One of them is called Object Trader. And you can actually take this trade. And what I teach our members is to basically fire it up on the mid-band trade and also like the predictor trade or the power dot trade. Okay. So in a case like that, on a mid-band trade, you would have been filled on this bar right here. On a power dot trade, you would have been filled on this bar right here. Okay, so usually we like to get in 2 contracts. So there's one there, there's the second one there. So basically your average is pretty much where you got in. Okay, but these can be classic, beautiful trades that can make you enough in one trade that you're just done for the day. Okay, because the whole idea of the way we've designed our scripts is we know when we get these breakups, we call them line in the sand trades. We look for the first time in the mid-band after a trend change. All right, and we also look at first time into phantom after a trend change. And keep in mind, though, that we don't look for a phantom when it's done this much of a move, okay? Because you got to look at fibs also, because the markets do look at fibs quite often, okay? So would we have taken this trade right here long? No, we would have shorted it because it actually broke line and sand long short right through here, and it definitely even broke this here. So that's like a little quick 10-tick trade, at least 10 ticks, okay? And then let me go on over here to where we're at even right now so I can show you some things. So here's a beautiful mid-band first time after trend change. Beautiful mid-band first time after trend change. Beautiful mid-band first time after trend change. Beautiful phantom first time after trend change. And see, this is right where we're at right now. There's your first phantom after trend change. So these type of trades work quite well. Okay, and we teach these just like clockwork. I teach these in my webinars. And it's not really difficult to learn everything that we do at Viper Trading Systems because of the simple fact that we do 3 trade type setups that work. And when you get these trades like this that work, you can get nicely green, you can turn off the machine, and you're done. Okay, let me show you Object Trader to give an example. And keep in mind, you do have to put a stop, obviously, and we have stops built into Object Trader. When we take a phantom trade, to give an example, we put our stop at line 0. If it ratchets a little bit, we put our stop at line 1. If it ratchets a little bit more, we put it at line 2, and so on, because you don't want to just hold on to this thing until it goes all the way back against your cost. So let me show you a little bit about Object Trader. We have a toolbar that shows up on the left-hand side of the chart with all of our trade types that are on Object Trader. So basically, when I call these trades in the room, let's say I was, for instance, going to call a phantom type trade setup. Well, this is a phantom trade type setup, and it will fire on that little dot right there. This is called a power dot. You just simply turn it on, and you turn on the long because we're looking for longs at that point because of our mid-band. Okay, over here, notice that this trade, when I talk about mid-band trades, you're looking for power dot, but to the short side instead. Okay, and that's the way we trade continually. Now, if you don't ever want to trade against the overall trend on a day, then just simply take the line in the sand long shorts, because remember, even in the room, I was calling these areas and drawing lines on the chart. Is that a higher low than that one right there? So then for the most part, you're looking for longs, not shorts, right? because you're getting higher highs and higher lows. Even at this point, you still are. See what I mean? So, but the beauty of our scripts is you don't have to worry about that because we can still get this first time in the mid-band after trend change, first time into phantom after trend change. That's a little $400 range right there that you can trade. Just don't hang on to the trade forever. Okay? And we also clone our trades, and by clicking clone, it will clone every account that you've got or X number of accounts that you've got. You get to choose which ones you want to clone. Okay? You don't have to clone them all. You can clone just part of them or whatever you want to do. Anybody have any questions thus far? Because basically what I'm trying to teach in this particular webinar today is how to see these trades and get nicely green. You do not have to hold on to trades. You know, for instance, what if you traded this trade here? Well, right off the bat, you know where your swings are. You just look to the left to trade the right. There's a swing right there, not far enough up. Here's another swing right here. That's one of my targets. See, so when you go to that, then you go to your next swing, and so on. And you just keep drawing on your charts until they hit your areas and take coin. Okay, because if you held on, let's say that you got this trade right here, and a lot of people do this, and I don't really understand it because if you think about it, that's a good $500 trade pretty easily, but it's also a trade that would have come all the way back in your box if you just held it. Now that one didn't come quite into the box, but pretty close, right? So why would you want to let this go all the way up and test a swing at the top and then pull all the way back against you? To me, this is just another trade here. You know, you could take this trade and you got you another 10 ticks. You don't just hold this trade. Now, keep in mind, if you're a holder, then you'd have to hold it with line 0. And so far, it's still heading up, and you're fine. But if you're trading these prop firms like Apex or any of them out there, they don't like these drawdowns. You know, when you're trading their real money, they really don't like these drawdowns. So, you know, when you take these trades, always draw on your charts. See where the trade's going by the swings themselves. And if they even miss them a tick or so, then get out. If they break them and they happen to come back down through them again on a long, then get out. Because, you know, that's considered more of a double top. See how this so far now is still, it's breaking this top live right here on the chart, okay? So the idea of the next trade setup on this chart would be another mid-band type trade. But what our Viper traders do is we like to draw our Fibonacci's on the chart. And to me, this has a high, a low, higher high. This has a low, high, higher low, higher high this way. So you could do your fib from here. And see right now, that's a 50% retracement, okay? A lot of our traders will go on the power dot. See the power dot fires like that, all right? And keeping in mind, though, that if you take like even a power dot, you've got to have a stop in, and you do that based on these little swings, okay? Everything that we do is based on swings. And let me just draw it so that we can see it. See, this is called lightning right here. Now, lightning is just simply an indicator that draws the zigzag because your prices are always zigzagging. Right here, you have a low, a high, higher low, higher high. Now, see, they're taking that swing out right now, or trying to, okay? Now, keep in mind, if you had taken this trade here, and I just explained how to keep that trade or to get out of it, what did I say just a moment ago? You draw on your chart. It broke that area. See where it broke it? So where's your stop on this trade? Let's say that you got in here or here. Let's just pretend that you saw this trade and you got it somewhere around in here. Well, you don't want to hang on to it if it comes back down below support. It's just, once it breaks it as resistance and then kisses it as support, that's what will happen almost every time if you're not careful. Let's say you got in right here. Would you have held it all the way back down to here? No, because this is another trade setup. This is called a phantom, okay? Now, if you take this trade, looking left to trade the right, let's say that you do get in this if it happens to go with a phantom power dot, all right? Looking to the left to trade the right, you've got a swing right across here, you've got a swing right here, and you've got a swing right here. And this is about as basic as it goes. Now, notice you did not get a phantom power dot. It has not fired, okay? Now it's changed trends, so you're not really looking for longs unless you took a power dot against the trend, which I do a lot of times, okay? Because that just did a deep retracement. Check that swing right there is what it did. So you can jump in that trade again, even if it's against the color like that, because that's still an uptrend in my opinion, okay? You don't have Viper clone on your chart. You have to load it. You have to have your data on, Jeffrey. If you don't have data on, do you have Object Trader at all? Now, if you're on the trial, you're not going to see clone because on the trial, we don't allow people. Yeah, if you're on the trial, we don't actually have it where you can clone. The reason for that is because it's in sim when it's in the trial mode, okay? Now, looking at this chart right here, right now, for instance, I see a low, a high, higher low. So if they kind of break this area, if you miss this entry down here with the power dot, and by the way, Object Trader does see this trade, even though it doesn't show in here, because we turn off the power dots when they're not in the right trend. But if you turn this off right here, you will see the power dots and see it fired on that bar. So if you turn this on, this would have fired on that bar, even though this is red, because it looks at the power dots, okay? And I like that particular trade right there because I would have been watching it and said, you know what? That's at support. I like it. So if it fired that power dot, I'd grab it. Okay. How do you get that list on the side of the chart also? I'm trying to think if the trial has that. It should. I'll show you where it's at in the strategy. If you go into the strategy, disable it, and scroll all the way down to right through here, right here. Object types, menu colors, show object buttons on chart. It'll show it over here. If you leave this turned off, it will show it in the drop down instead. I'll show you what I mean. See how it's not over here now, but it is here. So that may be the way yours is, very possibly. Okay. Anybody have any questions on this way of seeing these trades? How did I know gold was still in an uptrend just now? Because of this right here. Let me just draw, let's draw lightning 4. See if I can draw lightning 4. See, basically, even at the time that this was happening, you had a high here, a low here, same high. So when they do that, they're probably going to check this swing, and that's what they did. See right there? And so you can take that trade on a power dot because that's still an uptrend as long as it doesn't take out that swing. This is called our ABC swing, and if they hold that, you're fine. I mean, this does go against our teaching somewhat, simply because the background changed and the mid-band changed, and that, by the way, was a mid-band short just now. But some people are long from down here, and this short may not work, but they may check that swing too. But see, the way this trade fires is like on this power dot. This one I probably wouldn't have taken because you were bouncing off support, but when they go above mid-band, you can take those power dots. But notice one thing that we found on these charts that really makes a big difference. This mid-band didn't stair step. It did step, but it didn't stair step. Notice the difference in the way when it stair steps. Does a little flat line. So you get a little pop, flat line, and then up. So in other words, if you're thinking about it, let's say you were at an apartment building or a hotel and you were getting ready to step up the steps. That's stair stepping, right? But over here, this only did a step. It didn't do a stair step. See, and that's usually a fake. We found that to be a fake 90% of the time, probably, because all this did is go deep enough to change my algorithm and change the charts. But I still saw it and even called it in real time that that's still an uptrend in my opinion because it bounced off support. Okay, and the whole key to trading is the swings. I mean, if you think about it, you're going to pretty much say, you know what, those swings are king. You've got 4 trends on your chart at any given moment. You have lightning 1, which is your very minor trend. You have lightning 2, which is a little bit more secondary trend, and you have lightning 3, which is a little bit more the trend. Let me show you how they draw, because you'll be able to see and get out of trades and everything if you utilize this way of trading. All right, let's draw lightning 1 first. It is very active because it's literally looking at a bar at a time. Okay, this is lightning 1. Here's lightning 2. See how you had a high, a low, higher high? Notice that all they did was check that swing. They do that all the time, by the way. So if you put your stop too tight, they'll take you out. You know, for instance, if you'd gone long down here at this bouncing off support, this would have possibly gotten you out. But look at the trade still heading up. So we've even developed things in Object Trader called exit at close. This would never have fired the trade even if you put the stop right there at that swing because it didn't close on it. I usually put it a couple of ticks under it. And if it closes, it closes. But see how I was right on that? That's actually still an uptrend. So rightfully so, you would be in what? You'd be long. And you say, wait a minute, your background changed red. You're got a phantom background here. But I just explained it that you did not stair step. Now, when you stair step, let me show you the difference here. See, here's a stair step for sure. Mid-band trade worked. This one's not a stair step. I did call this trade, but I did notice it as I was calling it that it was first time in the mid-band after a trend change, but it did not stair step. But we boxed it in. We took the trade anyway. Okay, that one worked perfectly. But you're more likely to get them when they're stair stepping to give you these beautiful trades. I'll go over. Let's see. We'll go over like at the open of the room. Show you some of those trades I called. This is pretty much when I opened the room right through here. Anybody remember this? Basically open the room. You had a decent little trade here. Okay. You did break down, but remember it broke down, but it never touched our predictor and it didn't stair step the mid-band. Now, was that a good trade anyway when it kissed resistance across there? Yes, but it moved fairly quick, so you had to get it quick anyway. But look at this beauty when it did set up with a stair-stepping mid-band, first time in after trend change. This is what we teach. This particular trade setup right here is about an 85% probability trade setup. And if you take it, you'll make money. And again, you don't have to make a fortune. You just have to make, you know, like my daughter did today, $350. Like my wife did today, 200, 220 across the board. Like I did, 650 across the board. And then I taught the room. Now, sometimes I do trade during the room, but when I'm in a real teaching mode, I pretty much just stand down on the trading part and literally diagnose these charts so that people can get them because I think it's pretty important. Does anybody have any questions on any of this so far? Because on our website, I'll show you here real quick. I'll go to log in real quick. Bear with it a second. It's got to log in. And it looks like it is. So anyway. Been trying to figure out why it's not our website, it's the members area. And I think it's Google, because even when I log into my Apex account, it's slow. So I got to figure that one out. But anyway, we have in Viper Trading Systems, when somebody's a member with us, to where you have a Let's Begin, this is where I recommend everybody go first off, because this teaches the 3 trade setups that I call and teach. It's not really that difficult being a teacher of Viper, because I look for 3 trade setups. I look for phantoms, I look for mid-bands, and I look for line in the sand. Line in the sand, you've got what we call a conservative and an aggressive trade. I personally like the aggressive, but I'll usually dip the toe rather than 2 or 3 contracts in it. Okay, so if you learn those 3 trade setups that I teach every single day, you should make money. We've got a trade manual also that teaches the trades also, and you can, even if you're on a 10-day trial, you can download that manual. Okay, and then the real learning begins when you start looking at Object Trader, because you do have to basically learn how to use Object Trader. Are any of our algos based on moving averages? No, basically everything that we've developed over the years is based on swings. And we do also incorporate into our scripts a lot of things too, like Fibonacci's, Fibonacci extensions, that type of thing. Now see, this did turn out to be a trend change. Notice that? It never stair-stepped, but it did break line in the sand long short that we drew earlier on the chart, so you would be short on that trade. Keeping in mind that could you have made money on this trade, and the answer is yes. Okay, but if you do stick with our colors and just go the way that they do, you'll usually end up getting a phantom trade or a mid-band trade, because that's the way they work. Okay, everything that I do and teach is based on these swings that are on these charts. You know, I don't use moving averages. I don't use stochastics. I don't use RSI, Bollinger, anything like that. You can. I mean, there's some teachers out there that teach particular stochastic setups and things like that. But I find that I can get a 10-tick trade pretty easily with just my trade setups. And if I get 3 of those in the morning, or 1 really good one, then I can make, you know, $400, $500, $600 on X number of accounts. And that's the key to it. I showed you even on my trades that are in the proof area of my website, because basically what that is letting you know that those were cloned. I mean, you can see 2 clones, 5 clones. You know, now we've got even more. So there's going to be more the next time I upload these. And I need to do that, but I've been so busy. And that takes literally about a half an afternoon to do it, because I have to end up deleting accounts and putting others in, because they only allow you to have a certain amount of accounts. And it's kind of a pain. So recently I just bought 50 more account settings on the deal that I use to download my trades, and I'll be able to keep up with a lot better. But see, like right now, to give an example, you know, is this really a downtrend as of yet? Well, it is stair-stepping finally. Okay. But what if this decides to break this little area here, and then maybe check this area here, see how it's holding that so far? We'll see if it does. But now you're looking really at shorts, but you also have to look at the overall trend too. And to me, all they did is check some lows. It's still a higher low than this one here. And they kind of double top through here. So they just checked a little bit lower. So my guess would be a little bit later, they'll take this up again. But our teaching is just pretty simple. You know, 3 trade setups. We also have Object Trader that knows those trade setups. We've also got Object Trader with rules built into it for like Apex, to give an example. Apex has a lot of rules. And if you want to pass them, you really want to do their rules. And we've got it built in. I like my panel on the left. Okay. But anyway, see, let's say, for instance, that we were looking for this trade that I called in the room. Okay. We would just simply turn on Object Trader with mid-band power dot, which would be that one. See, it would fire on that dot. We would fire off predictor below, and possibly mid-band. First time in after a trend change, no. Mid-band trade, yes. And then you would just simply tell it how many contracts you want to do. You can tell it, I only want to do a total of 2, to give an example. You could do it with a total of however many you want, but this will max it out at 2 if I put that on a max of 2. And then if I took that trade, or this trade, for instance, then it got up there just like I was saying in real time, and it went back down through support. So you got out. That was a good trade, and you're done. Okay, let's look at oil real quick, see what oil's doing, just for the fun of it. Now, oil's actually coming back to a mid-band. It is a stair-stepping mid-band now. See it? First time after a trend change. It may not work out as far as that goes because oil has been in a little bit of a tear to the downside, retracing anyway. But what I do in a case like this would be to turn on my mid-band power dot and see if this would go ahead and bounce here. And I check my fibs. And that's a 61.8 right there. And so pretty much if it takes out that area right there, it'll probably go long. If they keep trying to head down, they're going to take it short. It looks like they might take it short, but we'll see if it does a phantom even. We'll just see. First time in the phantom after a trend change, it just did it. Haven't got a power dot yet though, but a lot of our people take that on that line 2 bounce. And let's see what it does. This is not my favorite time of morning to trade. That's another thing that I teach in my webinars. I think your best trading is from 7:30-ish in the morning after news hits until about 9 a.m. Central Time. After that, you're pretty much playing their game. Most of the professional traders are done. They don't just keep trading. Now, where's this trade heading if it decides to head up? We like to teach measured moves. There's your thrust, there's your retrace, almost 76%, not quite. And so your measured move that they're trying to do is that right there. Now, will they? It depends if this resistance holds here, like right across here. It needs to take that out with a vengeance. Otherwise, it's breaking support, kissing resistance, and rolling. And it could easily be doing that. But so far, it's still a phantom trade. We would simply put our stop right here, or if we trust this trade, we'd put it at line 0. Now, as it stair steps, we'd start bringing our stop up. I haven't stair stepped yet, though. Okay? Anybody have any questions on this thus far? Because this is a good way to trade. And keeping in mind that you can keep pretty tight stops when you use these little micro swings. You look for 3 particular trade setups. They're pretty good. You know, you don't have to worry about holding some loser or something like that because they're pretty good entries. And you also want to always check your fibs. When I get a small thrust like this right here, I never go with 38. I like 50 and I like 61.8 and I even like 76.4. GX mid-band work, let's look at it. Yeah, see? It worked and rolled over, but it is still heading up though. See it breaking line and standing on short. So, and I even called it a few minutes ago that I think it's going to head up. And the reason for that is because you got to look at all the swings. Now this is so far just a mid-band trade, so you're not really long yet unless you literally got in, and I don't go against this trend like a stair-stepping mid-band. You really want it to prove itself. If it proves itself, you're ready to take it. Let's just watch it. See, it's kind of bouncing off that support area that I've got on that little swing. So far, it's just still like a phantom, not quite a phantom. See what it does here. See what oil's still doing too. I was looking at it. So your oil so far, see, all it did is kiss that resistance right there. Now, if it gets a higher low, they will go ahead and take it up. If they take this out, they're heading down. So to me, this area right here is kind of a line in the sand long short. See, they're just testing that resistance so far. Now, if they get a higher low, they'll take it on up. If they go taking this out, they're liable to check these lows. See what they do. The one thing that I do in my room too is by having real charts going with 4-range bars is I teach seeing these trades in real time. And it's up to the individual when you want to take them. Okay, I'll draw boxes, I'll draw lines, things like that. This could still easily be a downtrend too. See this big thrust down, retrace? That's what, a 38%? Yep. I kind of thought it was. So this thrust, this retrace, unless they get a higher low and start taking this area out, they're not going to be heading up. They're going to be checking these lows. But we'll see. So far, it's just a phantom. Now, in a case like this, I would probably be out of that trade simply because it went out of the box and back in it. Now, if this bar closes up, you're still okay. But you could lose some money. Even if you were in one contract, I don't think that's 10 ticks. So that would probably be a scratch trade. 3 trade setups, that's correct. Yeah, and if you learn the 3 trade setups by being in our webinar, you'll do fine in your trading because those 3 trade setups seem to work quite well. See how gold bounced off that where I've said, see where it broke, kissed, and started heading up. But you're still with the pink mid-band, so you got to be careful with this trade. See your swing right there? It's got to hold that. It's got to hold that swing. If it holds that swing, it'll take it on up because you're getting a low, high, pardon me, a high, low, lower high. Wake up, Gary. High, low, higher low. But see, they're testing that swing. See how they're testing it? Now, if that bar closes up instead of down, then they're not breaking it. But if it closes down, then they're breaking that swing. And you'd be out of that trade if you happen to be long. Now, if you use the colors that we teach, that's a phantom trade short. So you wouldn't have been long. Just using our colors. Because our trade setups work. Especially if you use the stair stepping and the colors, the mid-band, and all that. Pretty super scripts. Anybody have any other questions on any of this? Because basically what I just wanted to do today was just really teach some of the basics that we look at when we're trading. And when they go, like for instance, green background, pink midband, then just stand down. You look at other charts. What is oil doing? Well, oil took us out also because it went back in the box. Now, oil likes to do what's called a line 1 type phantom also, which you could still use the same box. This is still so far an uptrend because it did stair step the midband. Now, it may be a fake, and you're going to find out because I did say to box that in, and if it does break it, and you could even say, you know what, how about if you break that, I'll take you short. That way you're more sure, and that's the way you trade. It's just a pretty cool way to trade. Yeah, and the thing is, when you trade, just like Tom said, that gold midband worked, but let's face it, you didn't hold on to it forever either. Because if you hold on to it forever, guess what? These trades will always come back against you unless they're in a super trend. Your super trends happen 25 to 30% of the time, probably not even 30 in my opinion. You know, the real trends, you know, where you look at it and go, oh my gosh, that thing went up 100 ticks. How often does that happen? Usually you get bursts of maybe 20 or 30 ticks, but you always got to look to the left to trade the right, and you've got to see where your swings are. Swings are king, and if you learn to see them, you'll do well. What if you weren't even in this trade right now? Well, only if it breaks, kisses and rolls, or if it breaks, kisses and heads up. That's pretty much what you're looking at right now. Will they check these lows? Maybe. But we don't deal in maybes. We wait for breaks and kisses most times. Now on gold, as a rule, I will go ahead and take a line in the sand trade because gold doesn't kiss near as much as it will break and just keep going. And I find that works quite well. See how they broke our little box? It seems like they want to check those lows, doesn't it? And could you already have a few ticks? I even called it there. I even called it here if you wanted it. Remember, we had the box drawn there. You'd be up about 7 ticks. It's all about trading and you doing the trading on your own. You know, it's your accounts, your money. And what I'm here to teach you, though, is to see the trades in real time so that you can make that decision whether or not you want to take the trade. We just talked about that one just a moment ago. Is this really a stair-stepping midband yet? No, and you could wait for it to become one. This is a very aggressive entry if you took 65. You got, what, 9, 10 ticks? That's good enough. But what if it totally breaks and comes back and kisses that midband? Then you have a pretty good trade setup. Did you see how I got that list on the side, though, Jeffrey? Yeah, it makes it real easy to take the trade, in my opinion, because you've got all of your trade setups on Object Trader, bar close, regions, trend lines, all that right there at your disposal. Any questions? Because I'll entertain any questions and answer them for you. And get in the habit also of when you get nicely green, I mean, if you think about this, even on crude oil this morning, okay, you got this trade. Was that good enough? It went back down below support that was resistance. You take it off the chart, right? You're done. What if you got this trade? Takes out support, goes back above it, you're done. This trade takes out support, kisses it, you're okay, kisses it, and see how you can stay with those? Because what you do is you draw on your chart. Let's say you got this trade right here on that rollover, and this is where you want it to hit, right here. And see how it hits it and just plays around a little bit? You can hold that. But if it closes back above it, you want to get out. And see that trade held. So far, oil's just playing the game so far. Let's see what the fib they're at. Yeah, it hit at 80%. That's where they bounce. They love to bounce right there. So in a case like that, I would have probably gone long about right there if I was still trading. Any questions? Y'all are an easy bunch. Got members in here all over the place, and I've also got a bunch of people that came in on my email. So we're going to do this again tomorrow, and I'll teach as we trade. Because, again, if you can get just a few of these trades, don't go trying to get every single thing on this chart, because you're going to find out that there's a time when they come striped shirts. See that right there? That's a striped shirt. And when they do that, you pretty much got to either scalp or stay out of it. Because to me, even on this chart right here, they need to break this to head up. They need to break this actually right through here to head down. And if I was watching for trades, I'm not going to get all chopped up in this. I just wait. That's key to trading, is waiting. Wait for the trade to come to you. You'll find that you do pretty good at it if you do. All right, any questions? The only thing difficult about learning in Viper is not the 3 trade setups. It's Object Trader. You have to learn how to kind of use it. See how you can be short on that, where I drew my little box? That's called scalping. I drew the box for you because that's where it would have to break to really try to head up. It rolled out of it. Could you short that trade like right there? Yes, that was even a predictor trade. See how I kiss predictor? These are called predictors right here. They predict price action. They're real good about getting out of a trade too. See when they hit predictor bounce a little bit, predictor bounce. That one went through that one, predictor bounce. They're pretty good about taking your coin. This one didn't even quite get to its predictor. See how that's a perfect 8-tick trade already so far if you just draw on your charts. And we've got the tools that you can do it too. Anybody have any questions on a particular trade setup or anything like that? I'll be happy to answer. Any questions on trade setups at all? I think most of you members have got it, obviously. Yeah, one guy was asking, do we have where we can take this trade right here? Well, you can actually take it on what's called Band Trader. Band Trader is a six-tick trading box that you could take this on. For instance, when I drew that box, that was from line 3 to line 2. So you take the trade out of line 2, the way it was rolling over. And that's already a 10-tick trade. What if you made 200 while I was just talking just now? Makes it pretty easy to think that it might not be a bad trade room that you can make that kind of money at, right? And I'll stay transparent too, because, everything that I do, I don't believe in saying, okay, well, that trade would have worked great. I don't believe in that. Can you take a short with ES based on power dot? Let's look. ES is, well, yeah, you would have already, but see, it also kissed predictor too. But yeah, it's a little bit late now. But yeah, power dot. See, and is that a stair step in mid-band? Yes, yeah, it came down and then flatlined. So that's a stair stepper. And if you took a trade like that, you got in on that bar right there, 5906, 5905.75, and you're already up 8 ticks. Somebody else said they had problems with Apex today on Rhythmic. I didn't. No, I had no problems with them, but I got a Teams a little while ago that one of my members had problems with Apex. See how that got a lower high on OES again? Can you stay with the trade like that? That looks like a 10 ticker. Did you go ahead and take that, Alvin? Just curious. Yeah, don't worry about asking me if you see, for instance, that was a stair step and mid-band kiss predictor. Did you go ahead and take it? Yeah, that's $125 for one contract. Nothing to sneeze at. What I find is if a person actually just takes the trade setups that we do and don't just fall for anything on that chart. If you're a conservative trader, you're going to trade a little bit different than my aggressive way. If you are somewhat less aggressive but not quite conservative, that's kind of where I'm at most of the time. But I will call the aggressive area too. Do I recommend the new Ninja version? Probably. I haven't put it on yet. But I don't think it would be a bad one to put on. Okay. Well, I'm going to go have a great day with my wife. 53 years. Isn't that awesome? June 2nd, 1972. That is a long time ago. That's so long ago that so many things have changed in this world that you wouldn't even believe it unless you were alive then like I was, because this world has changed in a drastic way in 50 years. And it's sad because most of it's for the bad part. There's just too much going on. All right. Paul says he'll mark 49 on June 6th. Congratulations on June 6th, Paul. So if anybody needs any help today, instead, let's do it tomorrow after the room closes. And if I need to add any days to your trial, I'll be more than happy to. As a matter of fact, if you didn't get your scripts on and you put them on today, normally I'll even add a week. That way you got time to check us out. But I really want to spend that time with her. We're going to leave and go to that place we did when we were practically teenagers. I got married when I was 18 years old, so I'm not really super old. Well, at 53 to 18, I'm getting older. But I was 18 going on 19, and she had just literally turned 18. All right. I hope this webinar helped a little bit. I tried to make it, good and instructive. There's not a whole lot more that I can teach about these scripts except the way we trade. We trade these particular trade setups, and they work. And if you trade them and make $100 every few minutes on charts, what about this one? First time in the mid-band after a trend change. Trend change from long to short to mid-band trade. Classic Viper trade. What did this one do here? Well, it changed from short to long, but it hadn't stair-stepped yet. But did I talk about actually doing like a predictor just a minute ago? That would have fired right there at mid-band, and at predictor, you'd be up about $200 right now. That's first time in the mid-band after a trend change. It did not stair-step, but it's still a legitimate trade. It's riskier when it doesn't stair-step, but our people have already taken that, and they're pretty much out of it, I would think. 10-tick trade. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for coming today. We'll have a full room tomorrow, just normal time, and I will run this room like I always do and try to get these trade setups in real time. If I miss them, I don't brag about taking them, because you notice that I didn't even trade after I traded with my wife today. I didn't go bragging and saying, wow, I'm up $3,000. No, I traded 13 accounts times 650, and that's good enough. All right, and I'll teach you some more tomorrow, and we'll all get nicely green, and hopefully we'll get a bunch more people even coming in and kicking the tires, because NinjaTrader is getting ready to kick off their second phase of their vendor alliance, and they're going to get me pretty busy by then, because they're going to make it very prominent. Right now, you have to search me out on their Learn tab, but we were picked out of over 500 vendors to teach people how to trade. I'm very honored by that. All right, thanks everybody, and we'll see you in the morning. Bye. Have a good one.